everybody, and welcome to Trips and Traps. It's the March 25th episode of Trips and Traps, the last Trips and Traps of March.
Not the last Trips and Traps of the Inner Track, though. We'll have one more left, only 2 more weeks of, only 1 more week of racing on the Inner Track, I should say, before we move on to the main track. It seems like we've been on the Inner Track for so long, I just figured we're going to be on it forever. Yeah, why not? To try to get Ramon Dominguez 130 winners on the Inner Track.
You never know. We've got 5 race days left. He could easily win 5 a day. You never know with Ramon, but well, actually not next week, but in 2 weeks we'll actually hopefully have a little turf racing, which always makes Trips and Traps easier for us and hopefully a little more interesting for everyone at home. But anyway, this week we found 4 races to do, so we're going to separate into 2 races per segment, and we're going to start off with a race from the 19th, and it's the 6th race on the 19th of March, and we're looking at 2 horses.
This is State-Bred Maiden Claimer. We're going to look at the 7 Top Last, who had some trouble coming out of the gate, and the 5 Poof Poof, who broke fine, but after a little while, the rider decides to take back in what's going to be a slow pace.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you've got Top Last spotting the field some lengths here, and you'll see the trouble that one has later. Poof Poof, I don't quite get. This was a race where the speeds ended up running 1-2 around the racetrack. Poof Poof has speed, broke on top. Now, I can understand if others want to go, but this horse ends up getting strangled completely out of the race. I'm just not exactly sure what happened here. The horse is 3 wide, almost back to last. It was only Top Last getting left that kept him from being in last.
Yeah, if you're going to take a horse like Poof Poof back, I think you're going to have to make sure you save some ground going around the turn. That's the only reason why I could see doing this. And as you can see, he's not saving ground. Now, Top Last gets back into the picture here. And Top Last, this was Top Last's first start around 2 turns. Both starts before this have been at 6 furlongs. You can see after the slow break, Top Last a little bit anxious to get back into the game here under a 10-pound apprentice, Andrea Terrell. And, you know, I can't fault her. She's basically slowed her down as much as she could, and she's saving ground here, too. What's going to get tricky on this horse is, though, when they come around the turn, she's going to get steadied out of it a little bit, and I think with the slow pace, it's really going to cost her.
I agree. And there, of course, is Poof Poof, 5 wide in the pink silks, sort of last-ish in your picture, leaving the picture right now. And if you compare the 2 rides, Top Last is the one who got left, but was gotten right to the rail. And you're right, moved into the game. Poof Poof got that dragged back, half moved into the race, wide move, and now making that wide premature swoop into a slow pace, which of course is absolutely impossible to do, and Top Last saving ground here, and you're right, lost a little position there. The bottom line is none of these horses are that good, but neither one of them had trips that allowed them to win the race.
All right, keep in mind the pace scenario of this race, and not only the horses run 1-2 here, or 1-2 around the track, but the pace was slow, 25 flat, 50 and 4 for the quarter and the half, so horses trying to rally into this pace are going to have very little shot, and I thought Top Last a little bit compromised. Terrell, I thought was a little bit too passive around the turn, trying to get her back in the game there. But certainly, I thought Top Last ran an encouraging effort. Her first start around 2 turns, and Poof Poof's a horse that has had some tries here. But you got to think Poof Poof might one of these days be able to crack through in the right kind of spot at the right price.
I agree. Poof Poof is 0 for 10 now, and may only get 1, possibly 2 more opportunities in these cheap maiden claiming races here. Otherwise, the horse is going to Finger Lakes, where I'd be waiting for to bet on also. But I do think Poof Poof is a horse that's better than she looks on paper, and I agree with you about Top Last. The problem is, I'm always reticent with these horses that get left in the gate. You know, I wonder if it becomes a bad habit.
Yeah, absolutely right. It could be a bad habit. It could just be a one-shot deal with Top Last. We'll see, I guess, how they come back in their next starts here. Moving forward, I would expect that Poof Poof would probably be the more bettable of the 2. The trip's a little less subtle than Top Last.
Also, I wonder. Well, actually, both of them. But I wonder if Poof Poof could be good in a 1-turn mile. Now, Top Last might be well suited for turning back to 6 or 7 furlongs, because we'll be getting on the main track, and I doubt these horses will be running again this week. We'll see where they are when they come back.
All right, let's get to our second segment here. This is Saturday's 5th race of maiden special weight for 3-year-olds and up. We're looking at the 7 Jello Shot. Now, this is a horse we've talked about previously here on Trips and Traps. Jello Shot ran in a maiden claimer first time out off the promising effort. Trainer stepped Jello Shot up into the special weight and break slow again.
The trainer must have seen Trips and Traps and realized what a good horse he has in Jello Shot. And, you know, I'll tell you something. I thought this was an overly ambitious spot for trainer David Dugan and Jello Shot, but the reality is I don't think he was wrong. You get that tough break, and of course, as results, when you get a break like that, especially in a pretty big field like this, you've got a horse who's way, way out of position. Now, as you're going to see, he ends up making, from here very shortly, a somewhat premature wide run, but it's an extended run that actually gets him to just miss 3rd in this race. And while it's a gap between him and the leaders, I thought Jello Shot ran pretty well in here.
Absolutely. There you see He started to take off a little bit past that pack of horses, past 3 horses, within a 16th of a mile there, and still continuing that wide run on the outside. Jello Shot's going to steadily grind out the race here to be 4th and beaten, I guess, beaten a little bit over 8 lengths. But keep in mind, the winner of the race, Ziptronic, is controlling things on the front end. Ziptronic ran a fair pace here, 22 and 2, 45 and 2, but still pretty much uncontested on the lead the whole way. So once again, you have another situation where the leader, even though ran pretty fast in this race, is still getting away with things his own way.
Yeah, and Jello Shot is sort of one of the last ones in the picture between horses in the red right now. And he never stops running. I mean, he almost picks up between horses 3rd. And I even think the 2nd place finisher in Monte Carlo, a horse that we've done in this show before, actually is a pretty nice horse, and he ran well in here. Jello Shot would have no problem in the future if he dropped into a $50,000 maiden claimer, which is what he ran in the first time. If he were to run in that race again, I think he would be a lead pipe cinch unless something happens or there's some surprising horse in the race. I'm just wondering if off this race they won't be encouraged to try a maiden special weight again. We'll see how tough they are, but he ran pretty well in this race.
He did run very well, and I would think maybe off the race again they would try special weights one more time, see what happens before we get over to Belmont. Maybe they think the races will be a little bit easier here before we go to Belmont for state bred special weights, but we'll see. You know, they are older horses. I don't know how many new faces you're going to get in these kind of races, so why not? Dave Duggan certainly had a lot of success here at Aqueduct, so I would have trouble faulting him in anything that he decided.
No, I mean, look, like I said, I would have knocked him for running this horse in a maiden special up the $50,000 race. In fact, we talked about it and said, boy, he's getting overly optimistic. But ultimately, the horse ran okay. We'll see if he necessarily can win a maiden special, but the purses are good, and even finishing 2nd is pretty good. But we want to bet horses and make money on the win end. We'll see what happens with Jello Shot, but he's a horse that is better than he looks on paper, and he doesn't look that bad on paper.
Well, that'll do it for our first segment here. 2 races in the books, and keep in mind that our email address is tripsandtraps@NYRAinc.com. We love to hear all your comments, and please send us emails. We look through them every day.
We like to hear from you, and we'll see you again for the 2nd segment.